So thanks for you guys in the room, and for those of you online. I know this is the second last week, and so I know many of you have got a lot of things you're trying to pull together. So really pleased tonight to have Ben from Gnocchi. I've been listening to people say Gnocchi, and you just an Anglo-Saxon really can't say it properly. Really, there's got to be something happening in the back of the throat to say it properly. You teach me how to say it. So really thankful that Ben agreed to come along and share his journey, which I've just heard a little bit of it, and it's really fascinating. And one thing that I've really enjoyed talking to Ben about, and in our conversations around getting this set up, is really around this journey of how do you find the right idea, and then how do you actually go through that process of working out, is it a good idea, and then once you know it's a good idea, how do you get that, into execution? Because what these guys are all at is at various stages of exploring different ideas. All of them at a very early stage. And so what we've been focused on as a class is trying to understand, well, how do you know it's a good idea? Like, when do you find out that it's a good idea? Product market fit. When do you know that you've got something that's not just your mum thinks is a good idea, that actually people who don't know you and don't care about you think is a good idea? So Ben's going to chat to us for a while. He's got some slides. It's a great story, and I think you'll pick up a lot from it. So let me just switch over.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And the first thing to what Cameron said is I'm going to teach you how to properly pronounce this word, which is our business. So most people do say Gnocchi. Some people do say Gnocchi, but the proper way to say it, if you follow the phonetical spelling there, is ny, and then ki, gnocchis. You really have to roll. It comes from the nose. Gnocchi, okay? The next time you come in, please ask for a plate of gnocchi. So gnocchi's... I'm trying to see if I can get your face up there. Oh, right. Gnocchi is a very simple dish. It's an Italian dish a pasta made of potato, eggs and flour, a bit of parmesan. And today I want to talk to you about how we've taken this very simple dish and created a little bit of a small empire, a growing empire, which we want to get to around about a 30-store operation very soon. So we're a quick service Italian restaurant operating in the hospitality industry. We started as two mates, myself and Theo, my business partner, and today we employ 50 staff across 5 locations. We have 4 restaurants, or also known as gnoccherias. These are places that are dedicated to serving gnocchi. And we have a centralised production factory in Brisbane as well, and that's something very important strategically for us. We created Australia's first gnoccheria, so you know that there's lots of pizzerias, trattorias, ristorante in Australia that have gnocchi on the menu, but we are the first ones to just have gnocchi as the main dish. So we created Australia's first gnoccheria right here in Brisbane, and we've been able to replicate that model 3 or 4 times. We're up to store number 4 now, and we want to get to 30. Our food philosophy is very much focused on local, so the food bowl that is Southeast Queensland has some beautiful produce. We've got some of the best beef in Australia. Darling Downs produces that. The Sunshine Coast is fantastic vegetable product, and we've got a lot of dairy here as well, so just inland of Gold Coast there's fantastic creams. So we source very locally, about 100k radius, or maybe 200k radius, to create fantastic quality gnocchi at low prices. We do chef specials, and we also cater for gluten-free vegan markets and so on. Our business strategy is to grow through franchising. We want to do that through developing win-win franchise relationships, which is difficult to convince people of these days because there's so many bad stories about franchising, but I'll talk to you about how we've done that. And the gnoccheria locations that we're setting up are going to be based on the east coast of Australia. We're vertically integrated as a business, so we source our own raw materials, we manufacture, and we supply to our restaurants. Something that we're very strong on, and it's enabled us to actually grow during COVID, is our ability to adapt to change and business. And I think that's going to become something that's very, very more and more concerning as we move forward in our ability to do that. So the topics I want to talk to you about today are, first of all, steps in moving the idea from an idea stage to the market and what we went through. It wasn't a very clear process, but you'll see what I mean. We got there in the end. The fact that execution requires the heart and the head. So we went through a starting process, a big struggle stage before we ultimately succeeded in nailing the concept. And maximising values, or what I call ways to earn. We have created multiple revenue streams from a single dish of gnocchi. And the power of the gnocchi hustle, and this is more of a cultural thing that's evident in our business and evident in a lot of small businesses, and that's the ability to hustle, the ability to go out and sell, the ability to put your blinkers on and put your, just be focused on the end game and get over the naysayers, adapt to change, thrive, even environments during like COVID. So moving from idea to market, this was a diagram Cameron provided to me, thank you. So the first obviously is the proof that there is a problem or need to fill. We started as a market business, so you guys might have, does anyone work in the city here, in the Brisbane city? So every Wednesday, in front of the casino, we run the markets there. So we're there every Wednesday. If you were to go into any market in Australia as a hungry office worker, you've probably got about 10, 15 minutes. So there's a need for hunger. There's a need for something quick. You want to have something quick. You don't want to wait around for 15 minutes or something. And you want to have something that's not going to hurt the pocket because you probably eat out every day of the week. So we created something which ticked all of those things. There's a hunger and a choice. There's people are time poor, and we made something that was cheap and making it an easy decision. So the proof that our solution met this need was we were able to offer a fast dish at the markets. It was delicious, so it's on par with restaurant quality, and we know that because we also have fine dining restaurants, and it's affordable. It's a $10 to $12. No one really thinks about $10 to $12 for lunch. So we created this concept at the markets. We found that it worked. I'll get on to how we did that. And then we started to build a business around it. So we replicated what we had at one market in Brisbane City. And we did all these other markets. So we did the lunchtime trade in Brisbane, the lunchtime trade on Thursday in Cathedral Square, Milton, East Street markets when they were first at the original location, Night Quarter, which was down in Helensvale, Mount Gravatt Marketta, which is out at Mount Gravatt, Rockley markets, festivals, the Ekka, catering, pop-ups here and there for 6 to 12 months. Financially, that was a very good business. To stay small, to stay really neat and tidy, low wages, low overheads. We weren't paying massive rents that we have now. We were paying 2-people teams, so we had 3 teams that went out. There were 2 people, went out to each of the markets, and we became very cashed up. And that was very, very important before we made the big step of turning our business into a bricks and mortar business. And that's something that we've always done because I've personally come from a background of doing a business where I lost a lot of money to being financially strong before I make a big move. And that's something that I'll continue to do as I grow the company. Proof that we can repeat at scale. We graduated from the markets. We could have stayed at the markets as a pretty profitable business, making pretty good money, but we graduated from the markets, and we've now grown to 4 locations. We've got a plan to grow to 30 to get to a $50 million company within 5 years. At the moment, we're about $5 million running the 4 locations. So execution requires the heart and the head from starting, struggling, and ultimately succeeding. I think as entrepreneurs, we need to know that it's going to be painful. There's going to be a lot of joy and success in the end, but it's going to be bloody hard, and there's going to be a lot of struggle at the start. And for me, it started with a lot of passion, as it has to. You have to be absolutely passionate about your idea, whatever it is. But I found myself in the position where the original business idea that I had was not a good idea, and I was so passionate about it that I kept, working away at it and getting into more and more debt until eventually an epiphany happens, which I'll talk about. So my first company was Benfatti Fine Italian Foods. I come from an Italian background. I'm very passionate about food and wine, particularly Italian food and wine. I grew up going to Italy quite a lot with my mother, and I created a company. I was a relatively small importer. I started back in 2010, and I would import only about a container to a container and a half at a time, which is around about 50 grand of stock each time, hold the stock, sell the stock, wait for people to pay me for the stock, and then never be in a position that was strong enough to buy enough stock to grow to that next level. And this is a typical problem with importers. The real problem was I didn't start with a good business plan, I just started because I was so passionate about it. I didn't start with money in the bank, which everyone told me I should have had at the start. I did make it successful because what I did is found a revenue stream in food and wine tours to Italy. So I took up to, over the course of 3 to 4 years, 7 groups over to Italy to come and visit the people that I used to source from. So that was a nice injection, about 50 to 70K each time to do that. But I was doing it to prop up a business that wasn't working. I loved it. It was my baby at the time, but it wasn't profitable. The slow cash flow was killing me. The rents that I was paying at warehousing was very hard. There's this thing called cash conversion rate, and that is the rate at which you can turn a product into cash. My cash conversion rate was well over 100 days. With gnocchi, you make the gnocchi on Wednesday, you sell it on Thursday, it's within 24 hours it turns into cash. And that's incredibly powerful and different. So at the markets, I used to go down to the markets at New Farm every Saturday morning and sell my wares, and tell everyone about how beautiful my sauces were, my olive oils and my pastas. And one of my best customers was Freddie, who I called Don Freddie because he looks like the Don from The Godfather. And Don Freddie is an accomplished chef. He's the owner of Grappino restaurant up in Paddington. Freddie had an idea, it was winter time, and he said, why don't we do soup? Why don't we do truffle soup? And I thought, that's awesome, we'll do truffle soup and I'll use my truffle oil on top and we'll make some sales. And we did. I used the truffle oil on top. The truffle sales for my portfolio of products went awesome. Freddie got a lot of new customers coming to his restaurant, Grappino, so it worked for both of us. But for me, actually, the rest of my portfolio was slower selling because I was focusing on the day just on the truffle stuff. But the penny dropped for me. The fact that we could make soup, sell the soup, turn it into cash on that same day or within 24 hours versus the 100-day cash conversion rate for waiting for the container to arrive, 30-day transit time, waiting for it to get out of customs, another 10 days, sitting in the warehouse for another 30 days, chasing creditors from supermarkets that never pay and distributors that don't pay and people that go bust and owe you money. So there was something there, I'm not sure what it was, but there was something there about selling hot food in the market, in the industry that I was already playing in. Freddie's an old guy, he's about 70, he's got a son about my age, his name's Theo, we met. Theo's the head chef at Grappino restaurant. He'd been working for his old man for well over 10 years, genius in his area of operation as a chef, but never actually ventured out of the kitchen. Never actually got out and did something, and he wanted to do something. And I obviously wanted to do something in my passion, which is Italian food and wine. So we joined forces and we created this concept of the Italian street food trattoria. So it was taking restaurant quality food to the markets and selling it. Same sort of thing happens. We had a menu item which was a little bit too big for the speed that we wanted to sell at. So when lunchtime comes in the city, 500 people literally come down, more than 500 people come down, and they want to be fed quickly. We had ribs on the menu, we had soup, we had gnocchi, we had sweets. It was just way too big an operation for 2 people. So what we did was before I get to what we did, it again increased the cash flow compared to my previous business. And if you can see on the slide there, I still had my Italian wares in between. I had my truffle oil, my soup on the side, my sauces on the side. So it was very messy. It looked beautiful, but it was messy. It was very hard to coordinate. Meanwhile, we had like a little section with the gnocchi, and it was just going out the door like this. And I'm trying to sell there's some truffle oil. Do you want some truffle oil with that gnocchi? Oh, do you want a sauce? I missed a couple of sales. Do you want a sauce? So you see what I was doing? I was trying to hang on to something that wasn't working, but always realizing this gnocchi thing is great. As soon as I sell all this shit, I'm gonna just focus on the gnocchi. And that's what I had to do. I had so much stock. I was sitting on about $1 million of stock, and it was making me very stressed. I still owed people money in Italy, and you don't want to owe the Sicilian guys money that I owed. So I had to sell this stuff to pay these guys so I could sleep better at night so I could get onto this business. It took about 3 years for me to sell through all my stock and to be able to sleep properly and to be able to get to a position where we finally said, let's get rid of Benfatti, let's create Gnocchi Brothers, and let's focus on the gnocchi. And that's what we did. You can even see the marquee used to say Benfatti, now it's Gnocchi. There's two of us, Gnocchi Brothers. We got smarter about how we served customers. We created a no queue environment where if you come down, there might be a queue, but the queue's moving. You go to the paella guy or the sausage guy or the person doing Thai food and you order, you wait, you get frustrated, you have to go back to the office, and then the name's called, and then you get it, and then you go. What we've done, we know that we can do 400 turns at lunch. We know that the majority of them are going to be wild mushroom and truffle. We prepare 20 minutes before the rush hour comes down, 200 of the wild mushroom and truffle, and we sell them, and because they're ready to go, boom, boom, boom. So we knew that through being at the markets and understanding how that worked. We became organised and driven, super fast cash flow. We did the market thing over and over again, and we were financially strong. We didn't need to borrow a dollar from anyone. We fit out restaurants on our own with the cash flow that we got. We were able to open Paddington in 2016. Most restaurants, if you go from an empty shell to a full-fledged restaurant, it's about 300K of investment. That's everything from the floors to the ceiling to the air conditioning to the extraction fans to the chimney that has to be regulated. All that, it's about 300K. We did it because we came from a market bootstrap environment. We did it for about half of that, but not all together. We opened at 75K. That was the balance that we had in the bank. We used 75K, and we kept the market funds coming in every week from doing 6 different markets to pay for the rest of it. And over a period of a year, we got that $300,000 restaurant. A lot of other hospitality businesses that you see borrow $300,000 at 10% interest and go bust a year later, and they wonder why, because they've taken too many big risks at a time. So yes, it was risky to go from a market operation with stuff or contracts to a 7-year lease, but the way we did it was quite conservative, and we made sure that we could afford it. We stayed at Paddington for about a year and a half without doing anything, because I think that was a good thing to do to, again, build to a financial strength that we could take on store number 2. And that's what we did. We got really super strong. We owed money to no one. We had a big bank balance, and we opened our second Gnoccheria in South Bank, which is on Little Stanley Street. This one was a lot more expensive to do, but we were able to do it through that same model of saving hard, with a little bit of help from the body corporate as well. We opened number 2, and then once we did that, we realised that this concept can be replicated. It's the first replication is always the hardest. But once we got there, we thought, geez, this is actually easy. And traditionally we thought, we thought, if we do something so close to Paddington, Paddington's going to suffer. We're going to have product cannibalisation, customer cannibalisation. Not at all. Paddington went better, South Bank went better, because everyone's talking about Gnocchi Brothers growing. They're still at the markets, they're over here. Are they the guys up in Paddington? Yeah, they are. We did the same thing down in Gold Coast, and I opened number 3, and the same thing happened. So the word got around that the Gnocchi Brothers from Brisbane had come to the Gold Coast, and from day one we've been popular there. So all of this was because of the hustle from the markets. We had a following before we opened the business. Doesn't matter what business it is, you have to have a following. So you don't have to, you can do whatever you want, but with us, we had a following before we opened the doors to a bricks and mortar, 7-year business operation, and we had the confidence to know that it's going to work. Next week, Tuesday, we open number 4, and that was us about 3 days ago, on James Street. So we're going to be at 79 James Street opposite the Sage Hotel, with Gnoccheria number 4. This one here is our most important one because it's our first franchise restaurant. So this is the owner's not there, but he's had background in restaurants as well. But importantly, the whole supply chain is based on us owning the gold, as we call it. The gnocchi that you have here is going to be exactly the same as Paddington, South Bank, Southport, because we make it in a centralised kitchen. We were always worried that if we give up the production, the recipes, it will go to shit, because chefs don't really care. They're not people, particularly if they're working for someone else at $30 an hour, they're not going to care. They're going to put more salt, less salt, more water, just get it out, pump it out. Whereas we've got the gold, we take care of the gold, and we treat it like it is gold, because it is. That's what's created our name around the quality. So multiple revenue streams. I did a bit of reading on the canvas map and the importance of having multiple revenue streams. We've come to realise that you can create angles and opportunities to create multiple revenue streams from a single product. Gnocchi is the simplest product. It's been around forever. No one's ever put it and focused on it and created multiple revenue streams. We've created 9. The first is, because we're a franchise business, franchise territory sales. So we get a huge chunk of money for a territory. New farm sold for a large sum of money, and he's got exclusivity for the new farm area. That's revenue number 1. Revenue number 2, production and supply. So we maintain control of the production. We supply them on a weekly basis. We're getting production sales. Royalty of the gross sales of the stores. So every store, even if it's a corporate store, stores we own, pay Gnocchi Enterprises, which is our production factory, a small clip. It's only a 4% clip. Usually in food franchising, it's between 8 to 10%. And the reason why is because they don't have number 2. They don't produce. So a lot of the larger companies, food companies, are buying from different suppliers. We don't need to screw the franchisees so much by giving them a 10% clip, because we're already making money out of them by the production of the gnocchi. So that's why it's a win-win. They're getting a gnocchi and the product at a very good price, better than what other competitors could do, and we're only charging them 4%. So it's a very attractive deal for an investor, a franchisee, sorry. Correct. Correct. Revenue number 4 is the simple traditional method. Every restaurant in the world, takeaway and dine in. So that's another way of making money through gnocchi. Most importantly, most restaurants start here and finish here. They don't think that there's other ways to earn. I'll talk about this in the next topic, and that is our home delivery service that we've created because of COVID and the opportunity that came out of that. Delivery partners is another way we earn. So we are number 1 in Uber Eats across Brisbane for volume of sales. So we do about $1 million of sales just with gnocchi, just with Uber Eats. They take their fair share of a cut. But if you do the math, it's actually good. It's still worth it if you compare it to the cost of delivery drivers, as we've done. It's like I used to be, they're taking a little bit too much. Actually, it's quite fair. Deliveroo and DoorDash have come on the market with us as well. We still do markets, events, festivals, and that becomes, for Ben and Thea, our little bonuses, our little paydays, because everything else is running smoothly. They just become nice little cash injections. So things like the Ekka, which is a 10-day event. We do festivals down in Sydney. The markets, they're nice little earners for us that don't need to go back into the big franchise group. I'll talk about this again, and this is finding new angles to earn during COVID, and that was supplying sporting teams and hospitals. And now we're tweaking, we're trialling wholesaling to non-competitors. Still unconvinced about whether we continue this option to earn, but we'll continue to try it. So there you've got 9 ways to earn out of a single dish. How does it translate into group structure? Just quickly, we started with Paddington, which is basically the markets, which turned into Paddington, which is our catering division. We then said, okay, if we really want to grow the business, we need to have a standalone factory, because guess what? We'll produce a gnocchi in Paddington, from 4 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock, and then we were opening for service, and we were doing that every day, and it was just getting in the way. So we created a standalone factory where now we do gnocchi 4 days a week, and we do sauces 3 days a week, and it's a much cleaner environment, much more. There's more room to move. There's no shift work happening into production and service work. So we created this, which was a big, again, financial move for us, because to create a factory takes a lot of money. But that allowed us to grow to 2 more stores, South Bank first, then Southport. And then we thought, okay, we can do this, we can replicate. During the year that is 2020, we created a franchise get-ready plan, which took us about 12 months, but we've executed it, and we created, this is pretty generic in franchising terms, a holding company, a franchising co. The franchising co makes sales of the territories and clips the franchisees, and you have a leasing company over here which takes care of the leases so that you're not open to too much risk. We've been able to open New Farm as our first franchisee in early days, but I do believe it will work. We will open the rest of the target locations in Queensland, followed by Sydney, followed by Victoria. Now, lastly, I want to talk about the power of the gnocchi hustle. And this is very much a cultural thing. The fact that we came from a background of having no money to having enough money to put together a first batch of gnocchi and pay the rent at the markets, to we can't really afford this guy, but we want him, let's pay ourselves less and pay him more. That type of hustle is really what I think gets a business from out of the markets, graduating from the markets and graduating to that next level. And that hustle has become our culture. We call it the gnocchi hustle. And this guy here, who's one of our star performers, our manager for South Bank, really encapsulates that culture. Jerry is his name. Came to Australia from Mexico as a QUT marketing student. Was making money doing Uber delivery driving for us on his push bike. This is before the electric push bikes came out 3 years ago. And I saw something in this guy that kept coming in. He had a really joyful spirit about him. So I offered him a dishwashing job. He did that for 3 months. He performed brilliantly. We offered him the lowest level cook position, which is the takeaway position. He performed that. He did it for 6 months, killed it. Offered the head roll position when the head chef left. Again, he just ran the kitchen beautifully. When South Bank opened, we thought, who's going to run South Bank? Jerry not only knows the kitchen, but he's a people person. He knows how to hustle. He knows how to sell. He knows how to engage people. We put Jerry in charge of South Bank, and we gave him a very small portion of the business, but enough for him to know that that's his, and he runs it beautifully. It's our best performing restaurant. When COVID hit, thank God, for South Bank Corporation, it's actually owned by the government, and they relaxed the rents, as in zero rent. Didn't happen in any of our other locations. So what did most of the restaurateurs do? I don't have to pay rent. I'm going to close. I'm just going to close and sit there. And that's what they did. We were the only ones open on that strip for the first 3-4 weeks, and then other people started to open, but we stayed open. Why did we stay open? Because we didn't have JobKeeper, because most of our staff are internationals. We're a new business as well. So we had to earn, we had to make a living. People like Jerry had to make way. So we stayed open, and what do you think that did for our business? Everyone started talking about us because we were the only ones open. We started to really campaign hard and hustle hard. So we did a radio campaign on 105 during the COVID times about our new home delivery that we're rolling out. We had a TV documentary come out. My Way came out just before COVID, which was like a story on Channel 9 about small businesses. And we directly propositioned the hospitals because they were the most busy people in town. Everyone else was closed. The hospitals were open. So I proposed deliveries to the hospitals, and we got the hospitals on board. We also got, going on from that, the AFL clubs that relocated to Brisbane because they were looking for places to eat. We were the only ones open. We were doing all this media campaigning. The dietitian heard that we were supplying the frontline nurses and doctors and thought that was wonderful, and we started supplying the Lions. So we created all these extra revenue streams from the hustle of being open and needing to be open because these other guys, these staff, these 50 staff that I've got, probably about 40 of them are internationals, and they needed to earn. So that's what we did. We relocated our front of house staff to, so they're the waiters as well as some of the dishes. We were closed for about 3 months for dine-in, as was the rest of Australia. We relocated them to the road and they became our delivery drivers. We took back control from Uber Eats, and we created a bigger radius than Uber Eats. Uber Eats didn't used to deliver to the Gap from Paddington, so we created this massive new market of trucks just going up to the Gap all night long, just delivering gnocchi to hundreds and not hundreds, but a lot of people from the Gap. So we now have continued that on. We service 50 suburbs, north and south of Brisbane, and that's a revenue stream we didn't have before. We wouldn't have had if it wasn't for COVID. We not only supplied the hospitals, and we did it at a charity rate, but that charity rate kept our guys employed. It kept constant orders, so we supplied the Mater, the PA and St Andrews, all because they heard from each other, and now we continue to supply them on a monthly basis, and they're big orders, like they're 100 sort of orders at a time going to different wards. And then, as I've talked about, we got in with the Lions. The Lions talked to the Suns because they're local teams, and then when the other players came, Essendon and Melbourne, who were playing against the Lions and the Suns, they heard about this gnocchi going around and we got supply of them. So we did carb loading sessions for them and also post-game. So all these ways to earn was because of the hustle of wanting to be open, not wanting to give up, not wanting to sit on our laurels and actually create revenue streams. So in summary, passion is something that you need in abundance to start a business. And particularly during the hard times, because you do hit the hard times and you usually hit it after year one or two when you realise that initial idea that you fell in love with isn't the idea that's going to make you money in the end. And you need to back that up with good financial planning. Admitting failure and doing it relatively quickly in business is a really good thing. It's not a weakness. So failing fast, we've all heard of that, is so true in my case. And you need to be able to fail so you can innovate. Because if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. One lone entrepreneur is far less powerful than two driven entrepreneurs that have complementary skill sets. So myself and Theo, totally different people as far as the way we think about things, but we've got a combined passion for the same thing. And taking steps to grow, I believe, is always better done on your own money. Building up your own money, you not only appreciate it more, but you can go into it with more security, knowing that you don't owe investors or the bank or credit anything. And challenges like COVID create opportunities to launch new revenue streams for resilient businesses. And most importantly, never underestimate the potential of a business that started selling its wares at the markets, because that's where you learn how to hustle really well. And that's my story. Hope you enjoyed it.